What's up, everybody? Welcome to a post-Thanksgiving edition of the Heat Ratio Network and Fourth and Go here with Gleck and Tek. We're going to break down some awesome college games today. I know everybody's coming off a football Thursday where they're either fat and happy or fat and mad, but either way, you want to bet some games and have some fun today. And we're here to break down two slates, a football and a basketball. Let me bring in my man, Tek Money. What's up, bud?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we're doing this show and get back in the mix. Help people win some money for Black Friday, man. Some cyber buys, I guess.
Yeah, and there's no reason to go out today, especially if you're up in the Northeast like we are. It's rainy, it's wet. There's great games on. We've already started some good football here with Tulane, Cincinnati, as well as Baylor, Texas, and we got some great college basketball. The tournaments are the key right now this time of year, is you get a lot of different types of teams playing each other that you normally wouldn't see. We saw a little Villanova, Iowa State yesterday, North Carolina, Portland. So we'll get into all that today. But Tek, let's lead us off with that basketball pick. You got one tipping off at 1:30 today.
Yeah, look, at 1:30 p.m., I like Stanford -6. The line's been moving around. I heard it open at 7.5. I don't have confirmation of that open. I didn't go check myself. I saw it at 5.5 in the morning when I was already looking at it. I basically got it at 6, mentioned it at 6, put it out to my followers at 6. I wish it was a little lower, don't we all? But the thing here is, and I'm not going to get too much in the stats and analytics like I usually do. Like the problem here is this, man. There's something up with this Florida State team. I already had an inkling of that prior to yesterday's game against Siena. I didn't have the guts to take Siena yesterday at all whatsoever. I thought, okay, well, maybe this is the game Florida State gets some of their pieces together finally. And that's the problem. What pieces? So I had to go look into this, like what's really going on. So I'm jumping around a little bit. They brought one player back, one returning starter. That's a problem. You don't have enough. If you've been following enough, I think a key thing to watch the starts of college basketball seasons, and especially to cap and bet and make money, is it takes some of these games where you have a team with a lot of returning players coming in because they're gelling, they're playing in sync, they got things going. At the college level, that's critical versus having a bunch of new guys from all over the state or all over the country, and it's a little different versus putting a bunch of players together in a professional team. Because at the professional team, you've already shaken out calibers of players and you're working with some of the elite, right? So you have to assume they're going to gel quicker and better and correlate better. I think in college, it's critical to understand these returning players. That's a problem for Florida State. Now, myself and followers yesterday took Xavier against Florida, and all this gels together. So Florida State, just to fast forward, one returning player, we're not going to get into the nuts and bolts. They have issues. Okay. With that said, I just think Stanford coming back with 4 returning players, this is a spot for them to, I think, just show what they have on the court and just play consistent and do their thing. Am I in love with this Stanford team? Not at all. The angle for me is just attacking this Florida State team. I think there's just something wrong. There's going to be a day where they're going to finally start getting it together. I hope it's not today. I just think the disadvantage I have is maybe -6 is too large, but I'm still in. I'm still taking it. What would I take? Maybe -3 if I could get it. So I'm going with it. But again, the attack here is on Florida State, and it'll correlate into the second pick I'll talk about too when we get there. But there's just this theme this year to start the season off with Florida State and Florida, and it'll all start making sense. So you gotta stick with the show till we get to it, and maybe the Stanford pick will make more sense to you too.
Oh, it makes sense already. I'm a Florida State fan. Leonard Hamilton is a fantastic coach, but they've just been hit so hard by a lot of talent moving to the NBA. A couple of years ago, you got Patrick Williams, Devin Vassell, but he's so big in the transfer portal trying to bring in, talent that way that, one of these years was going to be a gap year. It looks like it's here. I mean, you're losing games to Stetson. And as you saw yesterday, like you said, Siena, Mercer is the only win on the calendar right now. It's bad. It's ugly. Florida State's trending towards one of the worst teams in ACC, maybe all college basketball, especially out of the Power 5. So we'll see. I would lean Stanford as well. I just don't have a good grasp. Are they really that bad? Because if they are, this one's easy.
Right.
Do they have a little
heart? We're going to find out today. And you know what? it's one of those where a lot of us will be sitting somewhere talking like, well, you're not testing it on my money. Well, they are on my money.
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
Right? So it's like, I'm going in. So
I would too. I mean, Stanford played tight against, San Diego State. They've played okay, and that was a quality team, I'm saying.
that's
And
right.
then there are other games. They were in with Wisconsin. We saw what Wisconsin did yesterday, right? That was versus Kansas, I think, right?
Yep.
And
And they had a
down to
10-point
the
loss, I
buzzer.
believe, against Wisconsin by Stanford, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and Wisconsin's good. Like I said, lost in overtime at the buzzer.
Yeah.
3-team nation.
Stanford seems to be playing some strong second half. So maybe if you aren't weary of taking it now and you get something nice at halftime, it's a good spot. I've been noticing it play stud. And I didn't want to get too much into technicals here. And here's the thing. I've been watching. I do very well in college basketball when I'm actually watching games. Now, in this Philadelphia area, I've attended many games. And in the A10, we were talking before the show, I'm actually about 5-1, 6-1, sharing picks out to friends and members and family, just saying, take a look at this, take a look at that, between the A10 or Philadelphia schools. With that being said, I mean, I'm watching some of this, and this Florida State, I just don't know. I don't like what I see. So with that said, I like to stick with my eyes until it doesn't work. Then I'll bring the stats in to help me kind of figure it out. But even if I look at just a couple stats real quick, what I mean by is the free throw percentage, the field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, it's all basically even keen there, or maybe a slight edge to Stanford, let's say at the free throw line a little bit, just things like that. So I think we're okay. I think Florida State is going to be in a tough spot here again, especially with some tired legs. We'll find out, but looking at a couple things, maybe I'm not too scared of Stanford, but hey, anything can happen on any day. We know that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's jump over to one of our football games of the day. I'll give a quick shout out. What's up, Adam Cease? Thanks for checking in. I hope you had an awesome holiday yesterday. I know, big Philly sports fan. Adam's a great guy. Talking football today, there were a couple early we were looking at, but going to zero in on a game here at 3 o'clock today. Really important game in the Big Ten. Facing Nebraska. We all know what a crap show Nebraska has been this year. Scott Frost really driving them as far as they could go into the turf. And now they're trying to build their way out and rebuild that program. And you got a team on the other hand like Iowa that wins today and goes to Indianapolis as winners of the Big Ten West. They're looking to win their, I think, 5th in a row it is, but they're playing really good. They're playing good Iowa football. I don't think it's good football to the eyes, but it's a big game for them today. Obviously they'll be feasted on by whoever they play next week, but there's a lot of meaning into this game, especially the way they started the season. But 10.5 in a game today where that's the predicted total of right around 40 is just too much for me. Nebraska, they played a good, solid game last week against a very similar team in Wisconsin, lost by 1. And then a very similar game last week for Iowa, squeaks out a victory in Minnesota by 3, letting up 300-plus yards on the ground to the Gophers. I think Nebraska, as bad as their defense is, can at least make some stops here and stay within this 10.5. I got 10.5. I've seen it down to 10 in some spots today. I'm going to take the Nebraska Cornhuskers, as ugly that is. It really is. I think they can hang within this game. They're in the bottom 5 in most defensive categories, but I was in the bottom 5 in most offensive categories. It's going to come down to really number of possessions and how slow this game is going to be. And I think for that sense, we take the points here and we take the Nebraska Cornhuskers plus the 10.5.
Ooh, okay. So I don't know where to start, but I'm going to start with something that makes sense. You said the over-under's at 40, I believe. I'm seeing 38 at best.
Yeah, I said around 40. Yeah. So you've seen this
quick math, 38 with like a 10-point lead. So you're talking like 28 to it's to just sum it up, that doesn't make sense to me. So I would argue that taking a dog at a 10 or 10.5 is like the logical mathematical angle to just keep it quick, right?
Yeah.
What's funny is not to offend anybody, I've been calling this team Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's a bad team. So there's two very bad. I've told people this since week 0. If you're in my Discord room, you know about this. In this room, these people in my room are smart. They've made a lot of money around this even when I didn't attack it. If there was a process where you have to qualify to be in the league for the next year, I told everybody week 0, Northwestern and Nebraska wouldn't be here in the league this year. They wouldn't be here. Might take some hate. With that being said, I don't ever bet Nebraska this year. I don't ever bet Northwestern this year. If anything, I'll go against them or look at where I can connect the dots and see where there's eye correlation head-to-head testing where I can pick spots around them. But this is different. And you and a few other people I've seen on social media started posting Nebraska, and I know people aren't dumb. And it got me wondering what's going on. And I know a little bit about Iowa. They're not too much, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's not much of like a high potent, high octane type of offense. I think there's a lot of defense going on and just some tight games, if I recall. So that comes into the low over under. And I just think you're right. I think the angle to play this game is the Nebraska plus points because of what the book and the system has a point set up as. Do I feel comfortable with backing up Nebraska? Well, I'd be lying to myself then if I said all of a sudden I am, because this, to me, and if you know me, I've been saying the theme of this year is look who Nebraska and Northwestern's been playing, and you can build some really good angles and caps around that. But I think I'm with you, man. And I'm not the expert on this game. I'm just looking at if I take the team logos out and just look at numbers, the plus 10.5 makes sense to me. So yeah, I'm with you.
It's not fun. It's not pretty. But one big thing going against Iowa is they lost their star tight end, Sam Laporta, last week. He doubles anyone else near him in receiving yards. I think he's in the 600s. And their next guy, Nico, I think it's Ragiani, is like in the 300s. Hey, give or take. He's their guy.
Big miss. Yeah, big piece
back. Yep. It's just I just don't trust Iowa's offense enough to be able to ever lay 10.5 with them. And Nebraska's terrible. They're terrible. But if we just take some edges and some advantages, I think Nebraska's got a chance. I don't think they'll upset them, but Iowa never does things easy. So let's just put it this way. I think they're going to have to scrape out this game to get to Indianapolis next week to face Ohio State or Michigan, who obviously is the big game tomorrow. So that's one handicapping take on a football game. Coming up is our next basketball game. Tek, I know you're quacking, aren't you?
Yeah. Look, this goes back into the prior game, and I lost my screen here, but don't worry about it. Oregon State plus 14.
Oh,
the line may have dropped. Yeah. And this is a theme that if you just jumped into the show, you got to go watch the first pick, or the first pick ties into this pick. So we're talking about how bad Florida State is. Let's call that the theme that I'm bringing to the room. And we're right so far. We're ready to be proven wrong. If that'll happen today, fine. If Florida State is this bad, what the heck happened the other day versus Florida? I was watching that game, and I was kind of puzzled because I said in the beginning of the show, and I don't have all the details in front of me, I had already a weird feeling about Florida State going into many games ago, not just because of the Siena action yesterday. So when I watched the Florida game, I was sitting there thinking, holy schmoly, Florida must be bad. Because what's going on? They were about to lose to Florida State. I think I forgot off the top, and that's what I was trying to bring up, but I'm having some freeze here. I think Florida State might have won the first half of that game. If not, might have been tight within a few points. And then Florida came back and won. But in the back of my mind, I had this biasness, and I'm saying, wait a minute. Florida State is supposed to be very bad this year, one returning starter. And I got to keep that thought there, right there, until I'm proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong. We build no biases. We just take what we see. We go attack what we know when what we can. So what I'm saying here is if Florida almost lost to Florida State and Oregon State almost took Duke to the house the other day at a very low-scoring event. I know it's one game, and I didn't get to watch that game, and that's where my weakness comes into this, all right, because I'm kind of now lying to myself. You got to watch these games, and I didn't get to see it. But I'm going to just look at the box score and just guess and say, man, this Oregon State team has something, or you're going to tell me in the comments that Duke's a fraud. I don't have enough information to go there yet, and I'm not even going to think that I have to lean that way. I haven't been watching them, but I'm not going to even assume that's the case right now. I'm going to assume that Florida and Florida State have something weird going on, and plus 14 is too high for a team going against this Florida team that I think almost lost against Florida State. And for me to just close out the theme of the two picks of college basketball that I really like today, it just makes sense if you connect these dots that, okay, I'm taking that Stanford earlier, -6, wish it was down at 3 or something. and I'm taking this Oregon State at plus 14. And I know, like, when I started looking back, I was seeing plus 13.5. Someone had tweeted out plus 15.5 in the morning. I didn't see that line anywhere. I'm not knocking anybody because there's a bajillion books out there. But off the 3 or 4 books I looked at right when I woke up, because I was looking for this game when I woke up, I didn't see any lines. And when I finally saw a line, I saw plus 14, and I saw it shaking to 13.5. So I don't know if it's down or not, down to 12 or something right now. I haven't been looking, but I just think it makes sense to take Florida State. It's too many points today. It's way too many points. Oregon State. It's way too many points.
Nice. All right, I like it, and I like the theory and the line you draw there. I'm going to move to one other game in college today, and it's tonight. And we're going to talk about Team Tech just talked about, except with the pigskin, not the round ball, and that's the Florida State Seminoles. I like them a lot tonight against Florida. Florida, with a chance to really maybe polish off a pretty good season under first-year head coach Napier. They went out and lost to Vanderbilt last week. That's right. Vanderbilt does play football, and the University of Florida lost to Vanderbilt last week, 31-24. It was one of the first wins in the school's history against a team of Florida's caliber. And now they got to roll into Florida State and play a team that's red hot. And let's just be honest, obviously I'm a Florida State fan, but they're playing some of the better football in the nation in the past few weeks, have moved up to 16th overall, ranked in the nation. They just moved the ball real well. They've scored over 30 points in 5 straight games, and they're just good offensively, and they're good defensively. Mike Norvell has them rolling. Remember the LSU win at the beginning of the season, the blocked extra point? I do. It really looms large now and probably gave them this momentum going in. But more importantly, the 45-3 whooping of Miami is even more important to them for in-state, recruiting advantages as they try and take off the Florida triad here and beat both the Gators and the Hurricanes in the same season and really give some edge into the all season. I like them today, but more importantly, I'm going to play the Florida State team total over 34.5 today. Florida's defense is horrific. They have nobody on that line that has over 4 sacks this year. They're 91 in pass success rate. They're 104th in havoc. They just don't put pressure front. It's going to give Florida State all day back there, as well as their running game and added success. Look, Vanderbilt just scored 31. How can Florida State not go over 34 in this game? I like Florida State's team total over 34, and I look for a big win as well. Don't get me wrong, but I feel a lot safer with the Seminoles getting over their team total.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited about this because here's why. This actually puts some closure into a lot of analysis and just time I've spent. This is really interesting. So you and I didn't really talk about what you were going to do today. You might have mentioned it right before the show. If you did, it went over my head because I was trying to get some stuff ready.
Yeah.
I apologize for that if you did. I knew what you were mentioning as we're getting into this, but let me just say this. Coming into early in the season, I knew something was up with Florida's defense, and let me give you proof why. It was about week 3 or week 4. They're playing USF, South Florida, and I think they got the quarterback named Bohannon.
Yeah, Jerry.
Did you know up into that week 3 or 4 when they played, Bohannon had 0 passing touchdowns. And I remember in the Discord room, like, did you guys know these guys don't have a passing touchdown? But the prior game, they scored 40-something points. What's up with this team? And we're all just kind of puzzled. That later that next week, hey guys, check this out. Florida just let up the first passing touchdown to Bohannon. They must stink on defense. And it was something to keep pinned, right? Thought in the back of your mind. Here we are all these weeks later. Me and you were live on this show and you're trying to say no more. I'm still stuck on that thought from weeks ago. And I know their Gators team has issues on D. What's interesting, Gloeck, is since that week I found out about Bohannon, each week I wanted to attack team totals against Florida, but I never pulled the trigger because I made an excuse. That's too high. That's too high. I don't even know if it ended up working all the time. It probably did. I mean, well, books raise numbers, so I got to go look. But I just know to back you up, I already had a very ignorant, stubborn bias against Florida's defense. I'm with you here. I think Florida State is the team here today at home in football.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think they're going to take advantage and going to pick at Florida's defense. If South Florida was able to get their first passing TD so late or so many points later into the season against this defense, You don't have to argue me about it. I know it's just 1 point, but to me, then a team like Florida State in such a game, man, this is a big game when these guys play. It's big. I think it's Florida State all the way.
Yeah, Florida State 16th in total offense, averaging 473 yards a game, 23rd in scoring, 35 points per game. And if we just look, at what Florida has done against the better teams, they played 38 against Tennessee, 45 against LSU, 42 against Georgia. I just don't see how they slow this attack down. Florida State has been over, actually, I think 35 in their past 4 games. So it's just been an offensive onslaught, and I don't think it stops today. I think they are really fired up to play this game against Florida, especially when they're down. Florida State's gotten beaten down when they're down. It's time to repay the favor. I like the 10 as well. Don't get me wrong. Yep. I just think the offense is what's going to go today, and I think they could have that by half.
Yeah. Hey, look, we already know when it gets down there, you can expect high-scoring games. So I like it. I like both. I have no faith in Florida's D, man.
Absolutely, man. Hey, listen, there's not a lot on the schedule today as we wrap it up here. So let me just ask you a quick note. I know you just gave us a couple basketball games.
Yeah.
Michigan, Ohio State. Do you got any feel tomorrow? 2 versus 3.
I didn't even think about it because I don't want to think about it. I don't have a thought. So if I put a thought out there and there's someone that really likes my thoughts, yeah.
So I don't have it yet, but I will tell you this: a lot of what I'm looking at really does lean towards Michigan. And I know it might sound crazy, but when Ohio State has played some of the better defensive, they've been kind of stabilized or neutralized, I should say.
Right.
Now, Michigan had its bad game last week, should have lost to Illinois. But what people may or may not understand is Illinois is a pretty darn good team. Now, there's a lot on the mind from last year, what Michigan did to Ohio State. So that revenge factor will go into my handicapping analysis. But right now, early leans towards Michigan, but I'm going to do a little more as we try and build the bank for that big game tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. Hey, and maybe we'll get a show going tomorrow if you're available. A lot of games this weekend, and I think we're at a good spot in the season. So,
yeah, I love it. Let's win some money for those.
I'll tell you what, though, the Big Ten has just been unique to me. So now that you asked the question, I'm gonna go dig into that game a little bit and see what I see.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, that wraps up a quick little session here on what we're looking at today. Hope you all win some money. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Heat Ratio Sports, led by Tony Cattell and the team. Myself, Tek, we're just trying to get more content out there for you guys. And as we go forward here, all that kind of interaction with you goes a long way. So until maybe tomorrow, we'll schedule it. We'll put it out on Twitter. I'm Gloeck. That's Tek. And here's to you winning some good money today.